Lady K.
Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to Lady K Chat, a podcast that is designed for men and women to become better versions of themselves, which is broadcast every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Various subjects will be spoken upon, such as relationships, health and wellness, personal development, wealth building, children, and so much more. She is a two-time Amazon best-selling author, an international speaker, and life coach. She is Lady K. And now for your host, Lady K.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lady K Chat podcast. You are here with your favorite host, Lady K. And for those who are chiming in for the first time, I am the one that speaks her truth. I tell it with love, but I'm going to give that fire, though, so don't hold me back. Today, we have a very touchy subject that I'm sure that many are going to be like, okay, I need you guys to be open-minded and to relate. But before I uncover this, I just want to have everyone help me welcome my guest for today, Miss Tina Rane. She is the CEO of Arise of Coaching and Consulting Services. How are you today, Tina?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I am great. I thank you for being here with me today, Tina.
Yes, thank you for inviting me on today to speak about this topic, which is a well-needed spoke about topic. And I want to say thank you for allowing me to be able to speak on this.
You're very welcome. Now, I know everybody's saying, what are they talking about? What topic? So the topic that we are bringing forth today is mental health in the pulpit. So I have to say this. Leadership comes with a great bit of responsibility. Absolutely. And two of the greatest responsibilities that it comes with is with commitment and consistency. And when you put those two together, people in those positions, it doesn't matter how they might want to lead the people, they're always criticized for either decision they make, because that's what's going to come with it. When you're in that position of making a commitment and you're trying to hold yourself accountable and you're trying to lead people is not going to understand the different perspectives that you come from. But people have to understand, a leader has to look at things from many perspectives before they go ahead and make a judgment call. Now, Tina, being in the field of, when you're called to preach, teach, and be an example of the gospel, wouldn't you say that's a tough walk?
It is, because it's just almost like a celebrity, I would say, because you're under a microscope. You're under a limelight where everybody is watching you. If you happen to trip over a rock, they want to criticize you for tripping over the rock. You didn't walk right, you didn't have your shirt on right, or what have you. So being a leader and being responsible for many souls, because that's what you are, you're responsible for many souls. Right. So you always being looked at, and for some cases you may be even looked upon because you're not quoting, or you're not saying the things that you're supposed to be saying. Let me back up some. Let me say this. So you may have some preachers and some pastors that may sugarcoat, may water down the word. The word is the word. You can't sugarcoat, you can't cut off, and you can't add to the word. So therefore, when you're teaching, you're preaching, you're responsible for the souls. So you don't want their bloods to be up on your hands. So therefore, you have to, even if it's gonna cut, you have to tell them what God has said, and it puts us, it doesn't feel good for us or for the preachers or the bishop or the leaders of the congregation to tell their members certain things. But in order for the person to grow, you have to learn the pastors have to learn how to prune. And that's just like, you're gardening, you have to prune off certain things so that way your tree can blossom, your garden can grow properly. And that's just like in your spiritual walk. Certain things in our life has to be pruned away from us in order for us to get to where God is calling us to go.
Absolutely. And you said something that's so profound that I want to piggyback off. Even before they can step into this realm, people don't understand the training and the mind space somebody have to be to do that? Like I have to be, and I say this, and I think it's kind of funny, but do you know how many people I personally know that's right now in the pulpit that said, I ran for my gift. I didn't want it. And you know why they say they didn't want it? And I clearly understood why they said, because people are so cruel.
It is.
Like you said, God can tell you, you don't even have to be ordained yet, because a lot of us have the gift, but we don't want to say it. You don't even have to be ordained in that ministry yet, but you can have that relation with God and he can speak to you. And a lot of times people like fighting him. I don't want to say that, Lord, because if I say that, then they're going to ridicule me. And this is what people go through. So like I said, to be in that headspace, to take the excessive criticism, it's too much sometimes. And then y'all wonder why sometimes people break down. But I have to say this because I said this to you off air. A title does not make the person.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times because of the title, we look at these people as they should be walking around with their Bibles, quoting scriptures, or I don't know why, but people have this misconception of what they think, like we said, of what you should look like.
Right, right.
Where's the disconnect that, Tina? Why people assume that?
For the lack of knowledge. A lot of people don't know, people assume. So therefore, it's very important to, and if you are a part of a congregation, to get close to your leader, so your leader can pour into you, so you can see, because being a leader, like you said, it comes with, and you have to look from different angles. You can't just stand in front of the congregation and look straight to the back.
Right.
There's so many areas in being a leader where, it takes a lot from a leader, because some leaders are married. Some leaders have families.
Right.
So not only are they worrying about their families and take care of their families and make sure that their family is okay, they also have to make sure that the church family is all right.
Right.
So a lot of people don't know what it is to be a leader. They don't see the leaders on their knees at night praying and interceding for you at night. You don't see where the leader is fasting and praying for you at night or throughout their day or their week. So a lot of times people don't know, and people assume, and they get the wrong conception of what a leader is. And if we would, as people, stop putting our leaders up on a pedestal, worshiping them like they're idols, because they're not idols.
Right.
They're human, just like you and I. They put their pants on just like you and I. They bleed red just like you and I. But the difference is, because God has called them to a higher calling. God has placed them over you to make sure that you are being fed the word that you need. But like I said, because of the lack of, people automatically assume, oh well, I'm paying my tithes, and this is a really a touchy subject when it comes to tithes. Woo. Yes, the Bible does say you pay your 10% back to him, because if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't have these certain things.
Right.
You wouldn't be able to work. He's giving you the ability to go to work. He's giving you the ability to do the work that you need to do. But you always hear people always say, I'm not paying my tithes. All they're going to do is put the pastor in the Cadillac, or put the pastor in a nice house up on the hill. But let me tell you something. Everybody that claims to be a pastor has not been called. Let me say that. Some people are in it because they think it's the money, they want to be glorified. Okay, but what happens when you have a pastor that's who's really been called to do that job that the Lord has called to do? So therefore, they're going to get a lot of back talk. They're going to get a lot of backlash from people. That's just like Jesus when he walked. People lied on him, people spat on him, people hit and abused him. So we as people, as pastors and preachers that are in the pulpit, as over a congregation, they're going to go through similar ridicule. They're going to be talked about. They're going to be lied upon, but it takes a special person. I won't say a special person, but God calls who he's chosen to be over that congregation, or who he's called to be over that we say title.
Right.
But you and I are not our titles, because when we pass on, we spoke about titles before. Yes, okay, I'm an evangelist, but when I pass on, all my titles don't go with me.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times people want these titles because they want to be glorified.
But it comes with a price.
Right. Oh yes, your anointing do come with a price,
It comes
and
with a price.
it's not good sometimes, because sometimes you're going to be alone. There's going to be
Ooh.
times you're going to be in the wilderness. You're going to be like, Lord, why am I getting hit left and right? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? But a lot of times people will always want to say it's the devil. It's the devil. It's the devil. Sometimes we go through certain things to get our anointing. Jacqueline Carr, that song that says the pressing, the beating, and the shaking.
Right.
You know, we have to go through those things to get to our, you know, our anointing. We have to go through things. Being pressed doesn't feel good.
No.
Being shook doesn't feel good. You know, when God chastises, he chastises because he loves us. That's just like a parent. When you get out of line and you need to be put back in line, your parent's going to chastise you. So God is our Father. He's going to chastise us in order for us to get back into subjection and get back to what he has called us to do.
Absolutely. Tina, you said a mouthful, but I'm going to go back to this one particular area when you was talking about the leadership in the house and when people have to pay tithes, right? So
Yes.
I have to put this concept to people because they need to understand the building itself is a building. Okay. And people have to understand the mortgage have to be paid in the building. The lights have to be turned on in the building. The water needs to be running in the building. When you come to church service on Sunday and that bathroom smell good, and that's because there was toiletries that had to be purchased. So I understand, and I think this is what separate people from the church. I understand sometimes in these mega churches, you feel as if, you know, your money's going to the pastor, but that's not always the case. What about the small churches? The small churches get hurt the most because of the bigger scenarios and how a lot of pastors, yes, they might abuse the situation, but however, that's not all pastors, but it put everybody in that bundle. And it's not fair because, like I said, the church itself, the building is a business. Every business leader need a leader. The pastor is the head, and then his congregation, you know, flows. But in between the pastor and the congregation, he has his servers that help him move the church to let it run smoothly. You know, to make sure that things are getting done, because that person is only one person. As you said, Tina, they have a family. So you're trying to tell me they have to raise a family. They have to do everything in the church because you feel like you're not doing nothing, right? Let's talk about that, right? And then they got to go out there and work their 9 to 5, because some of them still do work their 9 to 5. And then they got to come and pour into you.
Yes.
You don't think that's a lot for one person? That's what I'm like, can you imagine being in their shoes? A lot of people can't, but you know what I learned, Tina? I learned when you're not in a position, people say, oh, I'm not being held accountable for nothing because I'm not in no position. I'm just regular old me. Yes, you do. When you decided to give yourself to Christ, you decided to say, I'm not perfect, but I'm going to try to be more like him. So it's going to inquire you to do some things. But because you feel like you're not the pastor, you're not the evangelist, you're not the prophetess, you don't have to do as much. No, you still have a job too.
Yes, you sure do. And it's you know, and I hear that a lot, or even scrolling through social media, you see people referring to they don't want to give their tithes, but it's not, and I had to learn this as well. It's not that we're giving our tithes to the pastor. I look at it as I'm giving it back to the Lord, because that's who gave it to you. You know, just like when they ask you to do things in church, you know, you hear a lot of people say, well, I'm not doing that for this church. I'm not doing this for the church. I'm not doing that for the church. But I had to get into a mindset where I'm not looking at it as if I'm giving it to them. I'm looking as if I'm giving it back to the Lord. I'm being a servant unto the Lord. Right. And so therefore, man don't have a heaven nor hell to put me in. So I'm looking to my creator who created me. And so if he has died on a cross for me, he has shed his blood for me, he took lashes and beatings for me.
Right.
So why can't I, as a servant for him, take those same beatings? Because we are, you know, because we're not any different from the Lord. We're no better than the Lord. So if he has taken these things, Why can't we?
Absolutely. And then just to piggyback too, tithing is not always monetary. And a lot of people don't understand that concept. It's also giving your time. But when you do take the time and monetize, you are giving it back to the house. It is now up to the shepherd of the house how he's going to pay things accordingly, because he was put in that position. He or she was put in that position to do so. So I need also people to understand it is not about he going to take your $10
Right.
a $10,000 jet, because he's trying to make sure he take care of the house. So here's another thing too, right? When the house itself is not in order, that can put stress on the leader, because if they're not getting the money to keep the doors open, but then they're getting called out because you want the pastor to do a dedication for your child, but you don't even want to donate anything to the church. And it's like, well, the church got money. Really? Where?
Right. And that's it goes back to the lack of knowledge.
Yes.
A lot of people can assume because they're seeing what's out in front of them, but they really don't see what they have to do or deal with in the back,
right,
or behind the counter, behind the curtains. There's a lot of spiritual warfare that they're doing.
right.
And then and we don't see the numerous hours where they're getting multiple phone calls, and that's taken away from their family.
Right.
Because somebody needs prayer over here, or somebody needs prayer over here, or they get ready to lose a loved one. So, they're out. And so then you have people in the congregation who act sometimes like children. And they want to say, go to the pastor for every little thing, or they want to go to the first lady for every little thing. And they want to, complain. And that takes a lot. And that's a lot of stress on the leaders as well, because when you have multiple members in your church and there's only just the two, the pastor and the first lady, or the pastor or the husband, then you have so many people pulling on different angles.
Yes.
You don't see how much it drains them. I know, for instance, my bishop, he's good. He's very good bishop, and he pours into us on a constant. And I can truly say that he is the one for the souls. He's not sugarcoating anything. He's going to tell you like it is.
Right.
But what I admire about them is because as leaders, we can go to them and talk to them and believe and know that our business that we go and confide in them is not going spread around.
Right.
Like, you have pastors that, you can go and confide in them, and then next thing you know, all your business is in the church.
Right.
But because and they have to learn how to, and pastors have a lot that they carry on themselves.
Yes.
They have a lot that's on their plate. And sometimes, and the sad thing is that sometimes their families gets the short end of everything, because they're out doing what's for the church. They're out doing what the Lord's called them to do. So it's a lot that the leaders have to go through, and a lot of people don't realize what they deal with on a day-to-day basis. And mental health, and because they are human,
right,
some pastors and leaders can suffer from mental health.
Yeah.
I know I was reading an article, they were saying 20% of people in the church is suffering from mental illness. And back in the day, in our ancestors' days, in our grandparents' days, church was a hospital. So church is where, when we was feeling down, we would go and they would sing their hymns, they would give the praise and worship to the Lord, and you'll see things really working in the church and working for people's family members. But now today you have so many people sitting on the sideline and so quick to judge, instead of saying, okay, I'm part of this church, let me get my hands dirty, I'm going to help this church, whatever they need in whatever area that needs more people to come help and minister, as far as ministering, as far as passing out food, whatever it is, instead of sitting on the sideline and putting more pressure on the leaders. The pastors, the leaders, they go through enough as it is. And as members of the church, we should learn how to help our leaders, not only help, but pray for our leaders,
Yes.
because we don't know the things that they're battling on their own time. We don't know what they're dealing with, outside of church, but then dealing with their personal business, their personal life and their families. And now they're dealing with our business, our family issues.
Right.
It's a lot for them. And we need to learn how to uplift our leaders instead of tearing our leaders down and coming against our leaders and trying to fight and go against the grain.
Absolutely. But like you said, Tina, there's a lot of warfare going on. It's not even this in the church, but it starts there because we're trying to say, how can we help one another? And you're supposed to be in the mindset of, how can I serve? And I think a lot of people are not in that position right now. Well, how can I serve so I can be an addition and I don't be extra headed? Because like you said, they're put in many different positions. They got to, oversee maybe the financial stuff. Maybe they got to deal with their own personal stuff. And then you don't know, before they even probably came in a position, what if they already had a mental illness ability, and then God called them? I'm like, what, Lord? I can't do that. I'm already suffering depression, and I know a pastor who was suffering depression while she continued every Sunday to be faithful and dedicated and committed and show up. It takes a lot of dedication for you to say, I don't even want to show up today, but then you do show up. Because I remember one time, I love my old pastor. She came and she said, what if I would have stayed home and in the bed today because I didn't feel like it?
Right.
And I felt that the congregation needed to hear that, because it was true. Because it's like, yo, you need to get off your high horse. Everybody plays a part. But guess what? When everybody plays a part, just reduce the stress on everybody. Absolutely. And I think we just I'm going to be real with you. We're selfish individuals. We think about self, but we don't we don't put in a place where, how can I serve? So I think, honestly, it's all about the mindset. And like you said, you got to convert the mindset, because at one time we were saying, well, I ain't going to do that. But look, it took to a certain place and space. And I think sometimes you may have to be in the situation to have better understanding. But a lot of people's not willing, because they see what comes with it, but they talk about other people, but they wouldn't even dare step their foot in it because they see. If you see, be a helper.
Yes, absolutely. And don't be on the sideline. I always want to throw your 2 cents in. And that's just like, and I was telling somebody last week about voting. I said, we need to get out and we need to vote. I said, the main ones that don't go out and vote, they want to complain.
Yes.
That person's not doing this. That person's not doing that. That person this, that person that. Okay. Well, if they're not doing what you need, get involved in it. And that's just like in the church. You're saying this pastor's not doing this pastor's not doing that pastor's doing this. Okay. Get involved in the ministry. Get involved in the church. Stop sitting on the sideline trying to pick out everything else. And that's the thing. Everybody's so quick to want to point judgment or to pluck the beam out of somebody else's eye, when we need to start with our own self first. Start within ourselves, because people may not know what you're doing, but because you're not in that position to where everybody's watching you, but you got some little skeletons up in the closet.
Absolutely.
But because the pastor and the leader is in the forefront and everybody sees the pastor, so everybody's all eyes on the pastor. Right. So now, because you see me, because I'm out there, now you want to pinpoint everything that you see wrong with me, but you fail to realize that I'm human just like you are. Right. I'm not perfect. I'm striving to be perfect, just like the Lord is. I'm striving to be perfect.
You were saying something to the extent, if everybody comes together and support, it wouldn't be that much stress, and that's for everybody. But like you said, stop looking at their titles and look at them as a human being. You want them to be held accountable, but why don't you also hold yourself accountable and say, well, how am I helping the situation? And then not only even that, because mental health is so real, I feel like there's a need that's needed for these leaders. Like, there's not enough people that can come into the church and this counsel the leader, or allow the leader to find tactics to relieve stress, because we already know stress is the highest form of why people, their bodies don't function right. And you know, and that's another thing too that plays a major part. So again, I think it would be great if there was a need for these mental health specialists to come into the church to educate the people, to talk about certain things. And then here's this: I'm not making an excuse for some people, but sometimes people have not identified certain why people act the way they do, because they don't even know that they might have what's the word I'm looking for? Not a disability. They might have a illness.
But you know, but in our community, on that note, in our community, we think that going to get help is wrong.
Right.
You know, we say, oh, what, you know, they think that we're weak if we go seek help, but it's not the case. You know, we have to learn that if we see something, if we know something's not right with us, you know, we have to learn how to seek help.
Right.
You know, we can't just, because if you keep allowing things to happen to you, life happens to you, then at the end of the day, something is going to just poke you right in the right area, right spot, and you're going to explode. And we have to learn how to seek the help that we need and stop trying to suppress what we've gone through, because that is another number one killer. Because like you said, all this sickness begins is like a cancer, and it'll begin to eat at you.
Yeah.
So we have to learn how to speak about it, talk about it, find some, and let me say this: you can't talk to everybody.
Right.
Everybody, you can't, because some people may not know how to handle it. Some people may not even know what to say or how to deal with it. And some people just want to sit around just to get your information, take it back and run to somebody else. So you have to decipher which one. And when you find somebody that is worthy, somebody that you know that they're gonna hold your information in and not spread it, then I encourage people to talk, reach out to somebody. And like you mentioned before, and that was something I read in the article as well, you know, in the churches, we need to talk about mental health more.
Right.
Because not only are leaders, but you have ministers that's dealing with mental illness. And like I said, the church is a hospital. Right. So there's going to be sick people that's going to be walking through the church doors, especially in these times. It's so much is going on right now. Was it I was just watching this morning on the news, 4 massacres within a week.
Yes.
So people's going through a lot of things. People are losing their loved ones from nonsense. People are just going through a lot, that they lost a lot of things. They don't know how to cope. People don't know how to accept the word no. So and you don't know what people's mindset is nowadays.
Right.
So we have to be mindful, as well as watch who we interact with.
You are suffering in silence. I really would like to encourage you to seek professional help. You don't have to speak to those that you are close to. Sometimes it's great to seek outside, so it can say confidential, you know, and you're protected by the law, that, you know, by law that person cannot air out your business. But I say to a lot of people that's in the pulpit or that's sitting in the pews, I say seek help. Stop staying mute. It's not going to help you. It's going to hurt you. And the more you do that, I'm pretty sure too, it's going to hurt your family as well. So I know we're running out of time, Tina, but you know, if the people wanted to reach you, how can they reach you?
You can reach me by phone, and that's 702-472-3791, or on my website at Arise, the letter N, coaching and consulting.com, or you can email me at Coach Tina Rane, that's RANE @gmail.com.
Thank you so much, Tina. I really appreciate you joining us today. Everyone, I hope you found this information helpful, and continue to follow us here at the Lady K Chat Podcast, here on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, and all those other great platforms that we're on. And if you want to find out any additional information about our services, you can always visit our website above. And with that being said, we will see you next Tuesday here again at 6 p.m.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Lady K.